What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel as you tune in and you check out the content. With that being said, man, I want to speak on this Isaiah Thomas situation and this continuing grudge that Isaiah Thomas seemed to have with Michael Jordan. And I want to point out that this grudge to me seems like it's more personal and more about more than what people really think it is, right? Some people think that, it's because Isaiah Thomas was kept off of the dream team by Michael Jordan, right? In which I think that is part of it. That's a big part of it. But when you look at what everything that was at stake when Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan was playing, when you talk about brand deals and legacy and everything like that, Michael Jordan behind the scenes, in my opinion, did a whole lot of things really to because he was hurt by Isaiah Thomas and it was personal with these two. He did some things behind the scene that really kept Isaiah Thomas from it really affected his legacy. It affected the amount of money and stuff and the brand deals that Isaiah could make. And so Isaiah Thomas really, this really destroyed Isaiah Thomas, right? Personally, I think it destroyed him personally. Now, not saying that Michael Jordan was wrong or Isaiah Thomas was wrong. It's just that now Isaiah tried to do the same thing to Mike, but it's just that Mike got the upper hand on him. And, once Mike was in position to use the power and the leverage that he didn't let up on Isaiah Thomas, right? And so when you think about the fact that what was that documentary that came out during COVID, The Last Dance. Before that documentary came out, Isaiah Thomas really wasn't, he really wasn't saying too much about Michael Jordan. Then once that documentary came out, then he kind of ramped it up more, and then it just opened up, in my opinion, that documentary just opened up some old wounds that Isaiah Thomas had. And ever since then, Isaiah Thomas has really been on a campaign, right? And like I said, and once you hear, or every time you hear Isaiah Thomas speak, it's obvious that he's hurt by that situation with Michael Jordan. Not, so it goes deeper than just being bitter rivals and Isaiah Thomas playing dirty. There were a few players that Michael Jordan really didn't like, and players that didn't like Michael Jordan. Like, for instance, Gary Payton and Michael Jordan really didn't get along too much, right? But you don't see, there wasn't that kind of a hate for Gary Payton or between Gary Payton and Michael Jordan that it was, Isaiah Thomas. Also, somebody else that Mike didn't really get along with, and it was more than just competition; it was personal. A guy by the name of Xavier McDaniels, right? Xavier McDaniels and Michael Jordan really didn't really get along. So it was a few people, but why Isaiah Thomas, right? Because when Mike first got to Chicago, Isaiah Thomas, and I think this is what Mike took. Isaiah Thomas made it seem like he was looking out for Michael Jordan. He introduced him to some friends. Michael Jordan even used to hang out with Isaiah Thomas's sister for a little while. Just showing him around town, just introducing him to people and getting him acclimated in Chicago, right? So when Isaiah Thomas tried to backstab Michael Jordan at that All-Star game and freeze him out, I think Michael Jordan just really took that personal. Then on top of that, when it seemed like Isaiah Thomas was trying to, and the Detroit Pistons was trying to hurt Mike, that just, to me, that right there just really just let Mike know that it's all about it's war, because Isaiah Thomas was the kind of guy who could smile in your face and stab you in the back. And so Mike realized that, and so Mike just beat Isaiah Thomas at his own game. Isaiah Thomas had brand deals that fell through because the company that Mike was with, Nike, they outshined the company, Asics, that Isaiah Thomas was with, right? And so all of that stuff, I think, combined just really just push Isiah Thomas over the top. And what I'm gonna do right here is play some more audio. Play this audio and just listen to what Isiah says, because Isiah really thinks that he should have been the face of the league. He thinks that the league, there was a conspiracy in the league to push Mike forward when he thought that he should have been the one who got pushed forward.
I cut his head off.
Didn't you see that?
Right.
But we don't get to. I'm older now, so but when I was playing and you get the mic, you can't really be that that brass with it, right?
Right.
But I'm sure in Jalen Brunson's mind, he's like, they talking about the face of the league, dude. Didn't you just see me whop the face of the league? That y'all.
But my thing is, why are they trying to force it on Wemby?
See, and so all right, so Isiah still is still going with that same narrative, because he thinks that all right, if you win against the person that they promote as the face of the league, then that makes you the face of the league. But that's not how things, that's not how it went, and so that's part of the reason why Isiah is upset and bitter too.
Where Jalen Brunson, as a 6'2" guard, just delivered the first championship in New York since 1973. Why can't he be the face of the league? Why are they trying to push it on Wemby? And I know Wemby is cold and he's proven a lot of things, but Jalen Brunson just got it done as a smaller guard, 38.
So, see, that was the question we was asking in Detroit when we beat Bird, Magic, and Jordan, but they made Jordan the face of the league. And here in Detroit, they were saying, why can't all guys be the face of the league? Why is this one elevated when you see him 3-4 years in a row beating your face of the league?
Right. So that right there is, and Isiah is stuck on that when, like I said, Isiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons, they had an image that was really hard to market, right? That bad boy image is, in the long run, is hard to market. If you could point out somebody now who is taking on that bad boy image in any business, any arena, and it has worked for them, it don't really work in the long run. That's why sponsors separated themselves from Isiah and that bad boy image, because it's not beneficial in the long run. It didn't, it benefited nobody, no business. I don't care if you're a restaurant, I don't care if you're a car dealership, like they can't really market that bad boy image. And so what the NBA did was they allowed Isiah and the Detroit Pistons to lean into that. They allowed Michael Jordan to lean into the good boy, the wholesome image. And they set it up so Michael Jordan, they allowed Michael Jordan to defeat Isiah Thomas in every way possible, right? On the court. Then when it came to business deals, branding, everything across the board. Like Mike really, and people really don't get the seriousness of this, but Michael Jordan, Nike, and all his sponsors really really destroyed Isiah Thomas, right? And that's what is hurting him. He's just basing it on the fact that he beat Michael Jordan when he was with Detroit, the first 4 years, and that should have propelled him to the top. But even if they wanted to make him the face of the league, they couldn't do it because of the image that his team had taken on.
Right.
Well, to me,
and so when you ask that question, right, it's a much deeper question in terms of who they want to be the face of the league, not who's the best, right?
Yeah.
So who do they want to be the face of the league? So they say this guy is. But the small guys, we always have to take a step back, because what we realize as small people is that it's a 6'6" and above category.
Right.
For whatever reason, our game, our wins are not counted the same as the big people's are.
And I think right here, like Isiah is just making excuses, or either he's just misleading or lying to himself, right? And he's not really facing the fact, because you know, like I said, his image just was not something that you could capitalize on the long run. In the long run.
Excellent. So you heard what Isiah Thomas had to say. What are my thoughts?
Right. So in the long run, you just could not, Isiah Thomas couldn't capitalize on that, and that cost Isiah brand deals. It cost him his image, like his legacy. And then when Mike, like I said, when Mike went back and showed that documentary, it just opened up old wounds for Isiah Thomas, and it to a new generation. It made Isiah Thomas look like, like he was a jerk. It made Mike look like he was the savior of the league. Isiah Thomas, feel like they made him look like the villain. It's just a whole lot to this. And I think Isiah Thomas is internalizing this. And, that's what has, and Isiah Thomas is trying to correct that by going on to these podcasts and speaking on it. But in my opinion, it's making Isiah Thomas look more and more unstable. Anytime you see somebody dealing with something like this, really the best Isiah Thomas could do is just allow his play on the court to speak for itself, right? And that, in my opinion, like I said, that's the best Isiah can do. But that's my take on it. It goes deeper than that. The situation with the '92 Dream Team, that was just part of it. But Mike was just scorched earth when it came to Isiah Thomas, and it really did ruin his legacy. It affected him financially. So yeah, I can see why Isiah Thomas is bitter. That's my take on it. Make sure to like, subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm gonna check y'all out in the next video.